Hello everybody. In today's video we have a Canon AE-1. So this camera came to us with a problem related to either a winding or a shutter. That's how our customer described the issue to us. Now I did inspect it fully and I identified the problem, and it actually is an interesting one. So I mean, it does in fact lock up, but the reason behind this lockup is simply a correct film sprocket. If you can see it here, I'm gonna go ahead and wind it. You'll see this major break here in the crack. Okay, so what happens is when you wind it, this sprocket become partially loose and gets stuck in this shaft. So that's basically is the cause for this periodic lockup. All right, so what we're gonna do in this video is pretty much take it all apart, replace the defective part, do a complete overhaul, clean the prism, and put it all back together. Okay, now in an effort to keep this video short, because it is a pretty long project, most likely it'll be two parts, but I did replace light seals to keep it a little bit shorter than it needs to be. And in previous videos I've demonstrated the process of replacing light seals, so it's not going to be an issue here. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with the disassembly. I'm going to start by removing battery and then work from the bottom to the top. Okay, I'm just going to do a little visual inspection. I also notice right here that there's a significant corrosion on the shutter magnet. So what we'll have to do is either replace it or clean it. Let's see what works best, but we're certainly not going to be able to leave it that way and anticipate that it will still work in the long term. All right. Yeah, so a replacement of film sprocket, I would say, is probably the most laborious task or repair you can perform on this camera, and pretty much any Canon AE or AE-1 or program, because you have to literally take everything apart to get just to that one part. That includes winding mechanism, that includes shutter, and removing the partially at least removing the main circuit board. So hence this video might be a long one, but like I said, most likely we want to keep our videos about 30 to 40 minutes at the longest. Probably going to be two-part video. Yeah, overall the condition of this camera is really decent. All the parameters are accurate, the light meter is spot on, shutter speeds are accurate enough, but we'll check and see later on if it remains accurate. If not, we'll adjust it. Yeah, so one thing I don't like about this older generation AE units is that sometimes they would put the Loctite on the screws, and that could create some problems taking the camera apart. Sometimes we had to strip the screws and removing with a drill bit. But yeah, the newer generation models, they didn't have the Loctite. The older ones for some reason did, at least in most of them. Looks like all the screws are out. So let's see what's holding it up here. There we go. Okay. Just gonna go ahead and do one final electronic operational test procedure. Okay, so that way we know that before we're ready to disassemble it, that the camera did function. So, all right. What I'm doing now is soften up the leatherette here so I can eventually remove it to get to the screws. So this will help out a little bit for future steps. So the viewfinder goes next. And by the way, there's also quite a bit of debris and dust in the prism. So we'll have to, once we have it all apart, we'll have to remove the prism and clean that area as well. When it comes to cleaning of the prism, I certainly like and prefer Canon AE-1 program and AE-1 because you have full access to that prism from the outside. And in this particular case, if there's debris or dust or dirt, you have to take the panel apart and clean it that way. But fortunately, that's the way it is. All right, now we're gonna migrate to the bottom. Gonna go ahead and desolder these two wires. Remove the tripod assembly. Okay, I'll flip it over. Okay, we should be able to remove the front panel now. So once we're done with that, then I'll get into the main board removal and then subsequently a shutter removal. Basically, you have to be extremely gentle with this leather red because sometimes, again, on the older models, the glue that they've used is really solid and have to be careful not to damage it. I've done it quite a few times before. I had to replace that leather red, but hopefully this will not be the case today. All right, I think we're okay here. There we go. So our front panel is out. Let's see here. Yeah, definitely a unit needs to be lubricated. And let's take a look at the mirror. Mirror is okay, but we'll take care of it later on. Okay, alrighty, so now what we're gonna do is flip this top cover over. Pardon me, the main board. I already have the top cover out anyways. Here's our ASA assembly. Okay. Okay, so I think we're ready for shutter removal next. Got a screw here, another one here, and one more here. There we go. Good. Now we have our access to the film spool here, which we're going to remove. And this gear is for the film counter. And now we should be able to unscrew this nut here. Okay. Okay, so with that said, we have to unscrew this retaining screw here as well. Get the right screwdriver for that. There we go. Okay, there we go, perfect. So here's our broken sprocket, and here's our good sprocket. So let's go ahead and put that one in. Let's make sure we have a spring in there first. All right, confirming that right now. Some do, some don't, so I don't want to put an extra spring in there unless, let's see here. Yep, we're good. Now we're going to start working our way back, basically. Attach it with a grease so it doesn't come off this washer. Let's see now. There we go. Now it's in position. Next step is putting the shutter back in place. Okay. Everything seems to be lined up well. Just make sure this screw is in place. Yep. Okay. Okay, all right, so it looks like shutter is winding and releasing, so we're good here. Now let's start putting our main board back in place. Let's see here. a little tricky here to place this gear because there's a very tiny hole where it needs to line up with. Let's see, there we go. Okay. Go ahead and clean these contacts here and here before placing the assemblies back. It's always a good idea, regardless of whether it works or not, since we're already here, to clean these contacts. There you go, so there's quite a bit of dirt and grime. There we go. Okay, perfect. So I think I'm gonna leave it at that with this first part, and then we'll see you in part 2 during the reassembly process. Thank you for watching.